Welcome into Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, and that's right, the deepest water right now looks like Jaron Ennis, of course, 32 wins, his 29th knockout, defending his IBF title against a very tough Russian, David Avanesyan. The question is, how good was the performance really with a fifth-round stoppage? Well, I got the professors to give the report card. Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri here in studio, Timothy Bradley, ESPN analyst for boxing, of course, joining us via Zoom. Paulie, I got to start with you because our own Showtime Sean Porter, friend of the show, was doing the live call. He seemed like this fight should have been over by round 5. He's a little surprised we were seeing a round 5 at all. We were discussing this fight last week. You talked about the durability of Avanesyan. So a fifth-round stoppage. Remember, Crawford did in 6. That was a little while ago. Your grade on that performance, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Sean, the champ, just probably thought that Avanesyan may not show up as hungry. Sometimes when you're a little bit advanced in age, you've already been stopped. You sort of give that half-ass it, you know, where you're not as determined anymore. And I think maybe Sean just thought that that would be the version of Avanesyan that would show up. But Avanesyan tried his best. You know, he came forward. He tried to get in the pocket and exchange and throw the punches in that pocket and whatnot. Didn't work out too well for him, but it allowed us to at least be able to see the Jaron on his show. You know, he was able to, you know, pick his spots and throw those nice punches on the inside to go to the body up top. Really, Jaron looked exciting. He looked destructive. He looked like a formidable foe. And I liked the performance. I was excited to see him. There's some things I'm curious about with Jaron Ennis that I didn't get to see in a fight like this, that maybe against a Crawford type of opponent or somebody who knows how to fight at range would make me curious. But as far as this particular fight, I mean, I liked what I was looking at.
Yeah, Chris, we liked all the pieces, right? Good combinations, you had good power, switching stances, very, very well, defense on point. But when you talk about his ability against a rugged guy who was in it but not tactically on his level, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the champ. I thought it was a good performance. But even Ennis himself, Boots said, I felt a little rusty in there. He's been out of the ring for a while. And it kind of looked that way. He got hit with some clean shots, which more so than I'd like to see with someone at his level. But his offense, you know, his combination punching, his endurance, his ability to make the weight, his physical strength, his power, all of that looked great. Definitely, like I said, got hit more than I would like to see, but he admitted to being rusty and feeling that in the ring. And I appreciate the honesty. Most guys won't say that. They're like, oh, no, I felt good in there. I felt great tonight, you know, whatever. But no, he actually went out and said that he admitted that, you know, he felt a little bit rusty. But Avanesyan's a tough fighter. Very, very tough, tricky, physically strong, durable guy. And he came in fighting very scrappy. So I'm not going to take anything away from David. He put up a good fight. But, I mean, Boots, we just got to get this guy active. I'm happy he's back. I want to see him back in the ring very, very soon. He didn't take much damage, even though he got hit some. So let's get him back quick.
Right. Tim, is this one of those things where it's, you know, nothing to gain from this opponent, right? If I look great, I'm supposed to look great. If I look anything less than great, there must be a problem. Is that the definition of a tough guy like Avanesyan after some time off like Ennis had?
Didn't Avanesyan take this fight on short notice? Boots was supposed to fight somebody else, right?
Supposed to fight Crowley.
Yeah, I mean, he took the fight on short notice. He did the best that he possibly can do. Everybody expected Boots to get rid of him. Whether he did it faster at Crawford or not, it doesn't matter to me. He did it faster. You know, everyone's talking about and criticizing his performance because he got hit a whole hell of a lot. Man, when you out of the ring for so damn long and nobody wants to fight you, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get a little rusty. You know, but as far as excitement goes, as far as combinations, as far as the stamina, everything that Chris alluded to, you saw it. You saw it, the athleticism, the ability to switch seamlessly. I mean, with the combinations over and over and over, the way he was able to step to Avanesyan, take his punching power, didn't fear it at all, took it on the chin and kept working. I mean, the kid is brilliant, man. You know, let's give this kid his flowers while he's here. And that's the reason why nobody wants to face the young Boots Ennis, is because they see exactly what I see. He is a problem for anyone in the division, and that's the reason why everyone continues to run from him.
Yeah, when you look at the next fight, we'll discuss for the specifics of perhaps a showdown once again with the GOAT, Terence Crawford. When you look at this big fight ready to you, Paulie, from the skills you saw against Avanesyan, you said tough guy, scrappy, awkward, but did you see the skill set for that next big fight step up in the future?
I saw some. I mean, you know, I saw the shot selection on the inside in the pocket. I saw you know, a willingness to, you know, try to go for the finish, a willingness to try to have that killer instinct. I saw all that and I was excited. There are things I'm curious about. A guy like Crawford knows how to control range a little bit. I thought there was a little bit of a lack of creativity in the way Jaron closes range. You know, a guy guy who makes you work the close range, that you may have to be a little bit more creative. But maybe it could also be because Jaron didn't really have to be creative to close range. You know, Avanesian's right there. You can just walk right up to him and start throwing combinations and be in the pocket. But I remember, for example, that was one big thing I was always curious about when Mayweather and Pacquiao, when they finally fought. That curiosity, I was like, Pacquiao just not creative enough when he's closing range, you know, and Mayweather's not just going to let him be there, you know. So you can be very, very effective inside that pocket. Like Jaron is super effective when he's inside that pocket, throwing those beautiful combinations, great shot selection. I'd like to see a little bit more creativity in the way he closes range. And maybe it's probably there. It's just he's a little bit rusty, like we talked about, and also there was no need for it against this kind of opponent. But nonetheless, I like to see you working on those things, even against opponents that you're superior to.
Chris, going off the champ here, do you think it would be better for him to unify the titles in a comparatively barren 147 rather than move up at this time? Should he unify the titles and maybe give us a look at those skills Champ is talking about before going up to take on Terence Crawford? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I'd like to see him unify 147. I think it's an open division for him. I see him defeating all the other champions of the weight class, being able to unify that division. And I think along that way, for one, he needs to be busy, right? He's been out of the ring for a year. One of the things that you mentioned, Champ Tim, that he was, you know, nobody wants to fight him. He now has a promotional arm in Matchroom that can get him fights, keep him busy. I think that's really important. The world needs to know who Jaron Ennis is. Not just us diehards. People need to see this guy work. And I think as he collects those belts and moves around 147, he's going to become a household name because of the performance we just saw. He's very exciting. And yeah, he got touched a little bit, but to your point, Champ, I bet you if he needed to, he can box too. He can move. He can fight at range. He can do these different things. It just seems to me he hasn't fought anybody that really worries him. He gets hit with these shots. He walks right through them. He's like, oh, you're going to hit me? Cool, I'll manage you back. And I'll take one to get one. And two, and three, and four. Because that's the way he throws.
Fighter, right? I see it sometimes. A lot of times, Philadelphia fighters fall into this mentality where they're so used to just not having to earn their real estate. You can just kind of meet in there and just start banging away, and it's almost like second nature to them. You know?
But what happens when you're in it with a guy like, all right, because you've been in it, a punch whizzes by your face, like, I can't let this guy hit me. That was too hard. Or you catch one in the glove, and you're like, hey, nope, I got to box.
For example,
tonight.
like a Stan Ennis and Ennis, you can if he fights like this against a Stan Ennis, man, it could be a lot of fun exchanges. You know, it would be fun for us, but would he complicate?
It's a dangerous fight, though.
Would he complicate the fight by not being a little more varied? I'd love to see it.
So, Tim, what's your thought on, of course, unifying 147 or looking for the Crawford fight up at 154? We'll talk about Turki Al-Sheikh and his tweet in a minute, but 47 or 54, where there are some big names. What's your thought right now, Tim?
Well, let me just talk about this. This was his homecoming. 14,000 people. You know, he was excited. He was excited, one, to be back into the ring, finally getting somebody to step into the ring with him. And two, 14,000 people. I mean, it charged him. You know, this is unfamiliar. This was unfamiliar territory for this young guy. So, of course, he's going to get beside himself. He wants to put on a show. And so he rushed it. Yeah, he could have took his time and set things up, but he rushed it and he didn't feel threatened at all by any heat that was being thrown by Avanesian. Now, moving forward, so who should he face? Anybody at 147 that wants to get it. I mean, you got Pacquiao coming back. You know, he's going to be facing, what's the boy name he's going to be facing?
Mario Barrios.
Yeah, I think we got Stan Ennis as well.
Yep.
You know, if these guys get in the ring, yeah, why not? Why not get it on? You know, but let's talk about how he got his belt. Let's talk about that. How did he get his belt? Well, Terence Crawford was the undisputed champion, right? But Crawford didn't want to, I guess they didn't want to negotiate with Boots. You know, Boots has been after Crawford for some time now. He wants all that smoke, man, at the end of the day. You know, I don't understand how let me just say this. I don't understand how we're saying we want Benavidez and we want Canelo Alvarez. We want Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. Well, Crawford was at 147 at one point. Now he's at 54. However, why can't we get a Crawford and Boots Ennis? You know, when Crawford was undisputed champion, he could have fought against Boots Ennis then. You know, to me, it seems to me that Crawford is being just like Spence was to him. You know, when Crawford moved up to 147, Spence said, get a belt. Crawford got a belt. He's like, okay, what's the excuse now? You know, what you need me to do? Well, you ain't fought anybody. You're hearing the same excuses coming from the Crawford team, you know, the way he did it with Spence, the same thing Spence did to him at the end of the day. Is he ready for a Crawford? Boots Ennis? Yes, he's ready right now for a Terence Crawford. I'm telling you, okay? Because he's athletic. He's just as long and big. He can switch southpaw. He can do everything that Terence Crawford can do. But the only thing that I see that's different is the mentality as far as how to control the fight. Crawford's the best at that in understanding how to control the fight. However, Boots Ennis, he does it a lot quicker. He makes his moves a lot faster than Crawford. He's a little bit more, I would say, he takes more risks than Crawford. He can punch just as hard as Crawford. Go ahead. You want to add?
No, I was saying he's hasty. He jumps steps. He wants to get there quicker. You know, he's younger. That comes with age.
But what I'm saying is I'm hearing a lot of people down talk this young man and say that he's not ready. Well, when he's gonna be ready? When is he gonna be ready? What is it gonna take for him to be ready? He wants to fight Terence Crawford, put him in the ring with Crawford. If we want Benavidez to fight against a freaking Canelo Alvarez, it should be the same thing should apply to Terence Crawford. Crawford should be fighting Boots Ennis. It's a guy that's calling him out. It's a guy that he let the belt go because he was there and he didn't want to face him. So that's all the rules apply all the way across the board. I love Crawford. You know I do. That's my guy. However, he should fight Boots Ennis as soon as possible.
Yeah, but is the money there? That is the question. Turkey Al-Sheikh, a tweet about putting this fight together. What do we think of it? And a showdown with Canelo. Is it on the back burner when we come back?
Wednesday Night Fights. Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, July 31st, ProBox veterans Alberto Palmetta and Jesus Sriracha return to battle it out in the main event.
Well, Paulie Malignaggi tells me they play soccer really, really well. But the Argentine fighters are also excellent. It is Argentina versus Mexico. The next time you see us, July 31st, here on ProBox TV. Get the app. It's going to be an outstanding main event. So we're discussing boxing now. And, of course, the performance of Boots Ennis against David Avanesian. Of course, Turkey Al-Sheikh afterward tweeting that he would like to make Crawford versus Ennis soon. What does that mean, especially when a lot of people think it was going to be Crawford, of course, taking on Canelo? Now, Crawford has to deal with another challenge August 3rd in Madrimov, so a lot of bumps in the road to this fight. Do we think it happens? Paulie, because I got soccer advice from you, I got to start with you about it. When you talk about this fight, a lot of roadblocks. How do you see this going?
I don't know. I'm not crazy about putting the cart before the horse. We saw Turkey Al-Sheikh try to do this with Joshua and Wilder and just completely make like Zhang didn't exist, and then Zhang knocked Deontay into next week, and that was the end of that, right? So, and I'm not saying Madrimov definitely beats Crawford, but when you got a guy who's 36, 37, it's fight by fight. As awesome as Crawford has looked.
Cliff is coming, right?
Yeah, as awesome as Crawford has looked every single time, and I can only judge Crawford by the way he's looked, which has been amazing, stunning, perfect. Still 36, 37-year-old guy, so I want to see him
and
first.
Fourth weight class.
Yeah, I want to see, exactly, another weight class. I want to see him first against Madrimov. And then, of course, let the fight organically be ready. You know, you could have maybe tweeted how amazed you were with Ennis' performance. And then on August 3rd, if Crawford looks great, how amazed you were with Crawford's performance. And now you can kind of combine those tweets. You may like, oh, you quote retweet yourself from the Ennis compliments, and you say, I'd love to make this fight. Now you've built it the right way. Otherwise, you can't make like guys don't exist when they got a tough guy in front of them, regardless of whether they're favored or not. You know, a lot of people thought maybe Wilder would beat Zhang. That didn't happen. People probably expecting Crawford to be Madrimov. But if Madrimov isn't there to just lay down either, and he can fight. So let's let things happen organically first. I like the matchup. I'm curious as anybody else about the matchup. And I love what Tim was saying. That Boots can do a lot of the things that Crawford can do, including switch and whatnot. I personally, if I look at Crawford at his best, I think he manages distance the best. He's one of those guys who I could see Ennis having issues with if he shows the same deficiencies he did over the weekend, where he's just kind of casually streaming into the pocket and thinks he's just going to get a free ride into the pocket against every opponent. Crawford is one of those tricky guys who you have to earn real estate against. You're not just going to walk in the pocket with him. He'll control that range properly. So there is a complication there that I'm curious about whether it would happen or not. But again, I'm looking at Crawford at his best. I got to still see if he's at his best when I watch him on August 3rd first. And then I'm going to say, okay, you know what? Let's make Crawford and Ennis if I see what I like to see. First things first, the cart goes behind the horse, not the other way around.
When you look at this fight, Chris, as Paulie just brought up, there is the age, there's the opponent, there's the weight class. Of those three, which element do you think is the most dangerous for Terence Crawford?
Well, definitely the age. You know, Father Time is undefeated. But I want to touch on the weight class because Paulie didn't really talk on that. That matters here, too, because, guys, we got to remember, Boots Ennis fights at 147. Terence Crawford's now moving up to 54 to fight Madrimov, so he's going to be a 54-pounder. Ennis, Crawford's not going back down to 147 ever again. He's going up. And Ennis has never fought at 54. You know, obviously he's big. He looked humongous in the ring on Saturday.
It's a big 47.
I mean, 5'10", 74-inch reach, wide shoulders, thick, heavily muscled, everything from head to toe. He is a very, very big welterweight. Can he handle 154? Absolutely, but he hasn't been there yet, and he has also been inactive. Also, we got to think about timing. This Madrimov-Terence Crawford fight is happening in 2 weeks. There's going to be time before Crawford is going to be able to step back in the ring. Jaron just fought also, but it was pretty much an easy fight, 5 rounds. He could fight early in the fall, and then we could talk about this fight later on, depending on how things go, if everything is to go the way it's supposed to go. But I agree with you, Chad. You can't just look past a guy like Madrimov. You can't just look past a 37-year-old fighting a young, hungry champion in a 4th weight class. A lot of moving parts to make this fight happen.
Champion.
Very capable,
very,
very capable. We said that on our air multiple times. Not an easy fight for Terence Crawford. We've got to see how that plays out. Too many moving parts to just go and talk about essentially what at this point is a fantasy fight.
Speaking of that fantasy fight, Tim, do you think this puts Canelo Crawford already a fantasy fight, already not sure what's going to happen? Canelo saying that fighting a guy who's naturally much smaller than me doesn't do a lot for me. Do you think this fight is on the back burner because of the tweet of Turki Al-Sheikh?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the ultimate goal. Terence Crawford wants to face Canelo Alvarez. He's on the back end or the tail end of his career. He said he only had a few fights left, and he wants to maximize as much money as he possibly can, and that's the Canelo fight. Canelo sweepstakes at the end of the day. But you guys said it. Madrimov is he's no easy task. You know, Terence has to get past him first. I think, Turkey, what he's just saying that, like, he wouldn't mind seeing that fight. You know, both guys, they got similar styles. You got one younger, one older. You got one calling the other one out, and he doesn't mind seeing the fight. And I don't mind seeing the fight either at 147 or 54. I don't mind seeing that fight either, because they're similar in a lot of ways. And let's talk about.
Do you still want to see the fight if Madrimov knocks out Crawford?
Do I still want to see it?
If Madrimov knocks out Crawford?
Yeah, I still want to see the fight.
If Madrimov knocks out Crawford, you would still want to see the fight?
If Crawford gets knocked out,
by Madrimov,
and wants to return.
These are all hypotheticals, of course.
I'm sure. I know it's hypothetical, but I'm sure he's going to want a rematch with Madrimov.
Yeah.
But if Crawford, let's say he wins the fight. Let's say if he doesn't win the fight, all right? He rematches Madrimov and then fights Boots. I don't mind seeing the fight with Boots. But Tim, what if he, okay, again, hypotheticals here. We're just talking hypotheticals. If Madrimov beats Crawford and then Crawford beats him in the rematch, now you got to start worrying about Crawford getting close to 100 years old fighting Ennis. You know what I mean? Because now he still took the L against Madrimov, and you're starting to wonder, is he the same fighter? Is it worth it? Just the L there. I get from a fan point of view, but then you got to start considering Crawford's age, even if he takes one L against Madrimov. Look, it just depends on where Crawford is.
This is my point about how many roadblocks are in this fight.
If Crawford wants to continue to fight, he can fight. We don't know that. We don't have that information if he's going to fight. If that was to happen, we don't know. Would he continue to fight? But I know Crawford, as far as the competition goes, if he was to lose, he would want to run it back.
Yeah.
He would definitely want to run it back.
Of course, it's very competitive.
A lot of roadblocks, as you said, Chris. Another roadblock, of course, Canelo. What is going on with him? May have an announcement this week, but we might not, because Independence Day, Mexican Independence Day, coming up soon. We'll discuss it right after this. Welcome into Deep Waters here on ProBox TV. We're discussing, of course, Canelo Alvarez and a possible showdown with Terence Crawford if he can beat Madrimov August 3rd. But Mexican Independence Day is coming up. We have no idea what is on his schedule. The UFC is taking over the Sphere for a big fight on Mexican Independence Day. Could Canelo be headed to England? We do not know what is going on. We're expecting an announcement. We're hearing rumors. There might be an announcement this week. Gentlemen, is it strange to you? Mexican Independence Day, huge for Canelo and his fan base. Mexican fans turn out for this. We have heard zero. What does that mean to you guys, if anything, Paulie?
I'm going to put on my Nostradamus hat, and I think he's going to England. I think he's going to England because, remember, they also waited for the Kovalev fight when he was fighting Kovalev on the same weekend, right, the same night as Masvidal and Diaz in the UFC. They waited for the Masvidal and Diaz fight to end before making their ring walk. So no matter what you tell me about, they don't care, you obviously did care. The point where you delayed the ring walk for the main UFC main event to end. So now that they're in the same town as you, And let's face it, in Vegas, is there really going to be that much of a hype up about Eubank? Not really. But if you go to England, now you've got a big, big deal. You've also got a different time because in England, the fight will be on earlier on U.S. time. And it'll be a big deal over there. And you get to still keep your Independence Day fight. You get to still keep it on the calendar that same day. I see that happening.
Yeah, 2 months away. We're cutting a little close as far as promotion goes and training goes. And usually one of the things you hear is, oh, they're already doing, we haven't heard about it yet.
Stuff. The Brits will sell it out in 2 seconds.
Right.
Well, the Brits will buy all the tickets in a second as soon as they announce
100% they will, but we're cutting it close in terms of any kind of U.S. promotion, right? You say about the training, you go, well, they already know this. Right. And it would be probably, of course, a pay-per-view event. These kind of things, we're cutting a little close, Chris. Do you like the idea that it's 2 months out, we don't know anything?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But with Canelo, it doesn't really matter, especially with the guys that they're talking about. If it's Berlanga, it matters more. The more time that passes, the less opportunity, the less chance is going to be Berlanga. Because like we said, the British fans, they're buying those tickets immediately. Wembley will sell out. Canelo's coming, boom. Okay, our guys fighting. We got one of our guys fighting Canelo here. We're all going. And that's an easy sell, and I think they understand that. That's why they're biding their time and doing what. Listen, Canelo does what he wants. He's moving the way he wants to move. Everybody falls in the line. They know that they have a British fan base already built in. If they are to go that route, if they choose Berlanga, again, I think they got to move it away from Vegas, move it away from the UFC, keep it on the East Coast. Problem with that is you're fighting in New York, which you got a built-in Puerto Rican fan base. Problem is taxes. Taxes in New York, guys. When you're talking about big money fights, New York is a nightmare for us athletes.
Fighters don't want to fight in New York.
Promoters don't want to do shows there. Right. Fighters don't want to fight there. It's just
modern
it's
New
a
York.
nightmare.
Floyd never fought in New York.
You missing the taxes in England, man. What about the tax in England? They high. They just as high in England. If not, they got free health care over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he can go to England and do whatever.
Yeah, but you can maneuver the contract a little bit differently. You can set your contract to be like, and Tim, I think we've all done this. You fought in England.
We've all fought in England.
Part of your money is
a
bonus, a victory bonus. So you can maneuver that a little different way to work it a little bit differently.
We've all fought in England. We know how things work.
So. Tim, go ahead, Tim. I don't want to cut you off.
No,
finish the thought.
I just think that the English are a lot smarter than that. They realize how much money that Canelo Alvarez. They know how much money he's making, and they're gonna probably hold him up right there. But I just if he fights Eubank or even Berlanga, bro, come on, man, are you kidding me? Like as good as Mayweather was, man, and how great he was, and what he did at Pretty Boy and leading up the end of his career, man. Everybody only looks at that, man. That's all they look at. The end of his career, how he operated as a businessman. This is what we're getting from Canelo Alvarez, man. We're not getting the best possible fight out there. We want to see the Benavidez fight. That's what we want to see. You're holding down the strap hostage. The strap you're holding down hostage. Mm-hmm. That's the fight we want to see, man, at the end of the damn day. Canelo, I'm letting y'all know right now, got a yellow stripe down his damn back. Yes, he does, people. Your favorite fighter has a yellow stripe down his back. You know what that means? He's soft. Canelo is soft. Step up and face a real fighter in Benavidez, someone that has rightfully earned his spot, someone that wants that world championship that you have, because look, man, we can say that it won't tarnish your legacy. Yeah, at the end of the day, yes, it's going to tarnish your legacy. With me, it is, because I'm saying, wait, hold up. You're supposed to be a pound for pound great? But you don't want to face this guy, Benavidez, to prove that you're the pound for pound great as a champion? Yes, I have a problem with that. And y'all know, and I'm not gonna shut up about it.
Also, champ, the Saturday afternoon pay-per-view, if you go to England, you're going up against college football in the United States on Saturday afternoon in September. That's going to cost your pockets.
That's going to be an interesting one.
Mexican fans won't be watching that.
English
fans won't be watching it either. So
not the non-Mexicans.
They will certainly get a pay-per-view bump. I think if they do the fight in the UK, especially if it misses the UFC, it will be very, very interesting. But let's shift a little bit south to another king in a much lower weight class, 130 pounds, when we come back. Welcome back to Deep Waters here on ProBox TV. 135, an outstanding weight class, chock full of talent. Let's add another name to it, right? Saturday's ESPN main event victory, Raymond Morataya, a former 130-pound champion. Tevin Farmer beat him. We talked about it before the show started, Chris, you and I, and you said, Farmer's hard to look good against. He's an awkward guy, tough to look good against. So a lot of people saying it's kind of a rocky performance. He didn't look great. You're like, hey, it's the opponent, not the man. What was your thought on this performance?
Yeah, I think with Tevin Farmer, he's a former world champion at 130. He's been on the comeback trail. He took a few years off and came back and got a bunch of fights, a bunch of wins, did it the right way, got himself back into position. This was his opportunity. Tevin showed up. He fought really well. Mentioned that he's a very, very tricky guy, southpaw, good defense, slick, slippery kind of guy. Morataya is taking a step up, fighting a former world champion, and a guy who's actually good. So I'm not knocking Morataya in his performance. Yeah, he struggled a little bit, probably more than people expected. But listen, you got to look at Tevin Farmer, what he's done in the past, and he's just a tough style to look good against. So Morataya, I think, got important rounds for him to move forward to vie for a title because he's at that mark now, 20-0. That's usually when guys, prospects, get their world title opportunity. So to me, it looks like Morataya is right there, looking to get one of those title shots, possibly against Baranchyk. Obviously, they're both in top rank, so very, very possible. But I don't hate the performance. Wasn't his best. But, again, fighting a tough guy.
At 135, a loaded division. Paulie, got to ask you, when you talk about that next step up for him, a lot of people talking about Dennis Baranchyk. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, you know, Baranchyk obviously has a world championship. So you take on a guy like Tevin Farmer, who is basically right below world-class level at this point. You know what I mean? He's a little bit faded, but super, super crafty. You can deal with him and deal with the frustration that comes with dealing a southpaw slickster who's got a lot of craftiness, a lot of ring IQ in there, and you can deal with it, even though Morataya probably dealt with it more through youthful energy rather than, you know, being just as crafty as Farmer. A lot of times, the youthful guy will be able to overtake the craftier, older fighter because his energy will just overtake him. I think that was probably the difference in the fight, but nonetheless, you still learn a lot by fighting Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer
Barancyk's older too, though, right?
Exactly. Barancyk's a little bit older as well. He's got the title. He's not going to be able to go. I think Farmer's probably a tougher fight, honestly, than Baranchyk. I wouldn't.
I do.
Honestly, you gave me Baranchyk and Farmer right now. It's a tough fight, bro, to call right now. You know what I mean? Like, I might even lean it towards Farmer. So I think this is a very, very impressive win for Morataya, even with the struggles, because you're learning a lot in this fight, man. There's a lot of IQ you're going to absorb taking on a Tevin Farmer. And honestly, Farmer showed some worth too. If he wants to hang around, he probably can hang around that fringe contender level and work his way back in there.
Tim, big next fight for Morataya. What are you saying about his prospects at 135? You saw the list of champions, full division, man.
You got 2 fights, lackluster performances. You know, yes, he is. It's hard to
You're
look good.
You're a tough critic, Tim. Tough critic.
Well, no, Tim, you used to love Morataya. You would talk about him a lot.
I do. I still do. I think he's a good fighter. I think he is. But the last 2 performances has been somewhat lackluster. It has. I mean, a lot of people expectations was you got a 130-pounder. Yes, a little older, a little longer in the tooth. Oh, you should be able to get rid of him. You know, you shouldn't be struggling with a guy like that. Obviously, Morataya struggles against boxers. He does. Movers. You know, the last 2 guys that he faced, one was very active, and this one was a mover. He struggles. Another thing that I saw that I didn't really talk about was that he fights in 1 gear. 1 gear. No sense of urgency. Never really stepped on the gas pedal. And when he did finally step on the gas pedal, he was able to produce some offense. Plus the help of the referee as well, not allowing Farmer to tie up, you know, excessively. And then the fight started to open up. He started to have success. However, Keyshawn Davis, he also wants Baranchyk. So if you're top ranked and you have 2 fighters, you know, prospects that want the same champion, why don't you match them 2 up and the winner takes on Baranchyk?
Yeah, but then who does Baranchyk fight in the meantime? What, does he just take a vacation? Barancyk's got to fight in the meantime.
So this is what happens, as you know. When you would first win a championship, you get a voluntary defense.
So he makes a nice
voluntary. So you can pick who you want to fight, get a little soft touch, make some money, keep your belt, and then fight the winner.
Okay, so who does Baranchyk fight? What's this?
You got to look at the rankings.
There's not a lot of soft touches there.
I mean, you got to look at the rankings. I mean, just look at the rankings. It don't matter. He can fight somebody in the top 25. I've seen plenty of champions fight against nobodies. You know.
So based on what you just said about Morataya, based on what you just said about Morataya, do you think he has a lot of trouble with Keyshawn Davis? Because you said, you know, he has a lot of trouble with crafty movers, right? I mean, that's a
good fight.
Would Morataya even want to fight Keyshawn Davis before fighting for a title? Because stylistically, it may not benefit him.
But he said that he would fight Keyshawn Davis. Morataya said that he feels that he's better than Keyshawn Davis. You know, but you got Keyshawn Davis coming off his victory. And he's saying that, hey, I want Berinchik because Berinchik called his name.
I'm remembering something now. Didn't they fight in the amateurs, MORATAYA and Keyshawn Davis?
I don't know. I don't
know.
I can't recall that.
Did we ever speak to MORATAYA? Was he ever on this show, or did I speak to him on my own podcast?
So.
I don't. Bro, they might have fought in the amateurs, bro. Don't quote me on that, man. My brain's a little punched
Regardless,
up too,
it's a good fight. I like it a lot in terms of, because MORATAYA's got a lot of pro experience. Keyshawn has less pro experience, but man, the kid is the goods. You put them together. Keyshawn impressed me with that last fight. He needed a fight like that.
Lightweight got so good.
That Dueno fight, he needed a fight where a guy was going to be rough and not respect him, take his punches, and get the full route. So I think that's a great fight.
You want to know something? This is the way UFC does it. That's the reason why UFC, they have the best matchups out there.
Yep.
It's like, okay, you got two guys that are coming up together, all right, and you got the champion sitting there. All right, well, let's put the two best guys together that are rising. Boom, they fight, and then the winner fights the champion. That's how they build events.
Tim, you're making too much sense, bro. This is boxing. Rationalism. We don't have any rational ideas here. It makes too much sense.
Tim, I love it. You're a tough critic. You're also a great matchmaker. We know the toughest critics are the fans, but we're there for you all week. That's right, here on ProBox TV's Deep Waters. We'll see you next time.